Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a view.
What a delight it is to see Murray Wilson. Murray, nice to
Hello.
see you.
Terrific to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Put something sparkly on for us this morning, or is this your normal attire?
I haven't been on stage since March, first week, second week of March or something, and then it all happened. So I thought, oh God, I could put some stage gear on. So I thought, yeah, why not?
Where are you, Murray?
I'm in Crouch End, or Cruchon, as they like.
Cruchon,
yes.
Indeed.
You've been tweeting pictures of a very, very attractive garden, which I assume is yours.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not massive. It's about, I don't know, about 40 foot, something like that. But it's really lovely. It's become very mature. And I'm not a gardener at all. I mean, I don't do any of it. But yeah, it is rather lovely. So it's just nice, isn't it, to be able to sit outside.
Oh, you're very, very fortunate if you can sit outside. I can't imagine what it's like if you can't.
Yeah, exactly. It must be awful. I just think people with children that are stuck in a flat, you know. I mean, I don't know, you know, people next door have got kids. They've got two little boys. And what's funny is she's been homeschooling them, you know. And I sit in the garden listening. It's just the things they say. They've got a little boy called Harry. And you know how they ask questions all the time, you know, and he said, Mum, what's an orphan? And she was trying to explain, and he said, no, it's when your mum and dad decide to go out. That's what he thought, you know. It's so funny, isn't it?
Listen, we were just reminiscing before we started recording about when you were on Whistle Test. How long ago is this? And you remembered what you said to Mark Killen, and he remembered what he said introducing you. How many years ago were we talking about there, Mark?
It was 1982, wasn't it? I'm actually convinced it was 1982. Yeah, it was 1982. It was in Riverside Studios in Hammersmith, and I can remember you with your beehive hairdo, and you had, I think, a string duo accompanying you.
Yes,
and you did "Cry Me a River" by Julie London. Yeah, and I remember saying that with a very sensitive reading of the Julie London classic. And I can remember saying, as I said, reading. I can remember thinking that is the most pretentious thing. What am I doing that? Why don't you say she's doing a version of a great song, you know? But yeah, I remember, and you were on with Susie of the Banshees, weren't you?
Yes, Susie was on, and and I remember I told you how lovely you looked wearing mascara. I do remember that. I think you were a bit taken.
And I blushed.
Yeah.
That was great.
I was just looking at your website, and I note that I've got to pick up a thread that we were talking about with Thomas Walsh the other day on Word in Your Attic. He's a big Roy Wood and the Move fan.
Oh,
you actually played with Roy Wood.
I can't tell you.
Go on, tell us about you and Roy Wood.
It was a dream come true for me. I'm a massive fan of Roy Wood. I think he's a genius, actually. I mean, he's really the consummate musician, you know. And it just so happened that the other one went off and had all this massive success. But I think Roy's quite. I mean, not that I know him terribly well, but he's quite quiet, you know, really. And anyway, so my agent was getting him some work as well. And he said, Roy's going to drop you an email. And I got this email saying, would you be my special guest at my annual Christmas show? It's like, would I? You know.
Yeah.
So he said, I'll write out he said, I've got a string section. I'll write out a nice chart for Cry Me a River. That's what I mean about his musicianship, you know. And he said, and then if you can do just what I've always wanted, and then I'd love it if you could sing a couple of verses with me of I Wish It Could Be Christmas every day.
Oh,
I'm like, what? I can't tell you how excited I was. And he was so lovely. And when I was singing the Christmas song with him, you know, I was like, he's right next to me, you know, and having watched him on Top of the Pops as a kid.
And didn't you see him in 1969 at the NME poll winners?
I did, with Carl Wayne. What a great singer. Yeah. He was a fantastic singer and very sexy, if I can say that.
He was an early adopter of the leather trouser, wasn't he, Carl Wayne?
He was a bit saucy, yeah. And I think Amen Corner might have been on that bill as well, or they might have done another one.
Right.
But it was just fantastic, and I sent him a little message on Christmas Day saying Merry Christmas and thanks, what a great time I had and everything. And he wrote back, he said, I'm just peeling the spuds. I thought, oh, he's so down to earth, you know. It's just it's great, isn't it? Because you meet your heroes, and sometimes they can be a bit disappointing, but he was just great.
He was.
And also, it's the only gig I've ever done where there's been bagpipes at the side of the stage next to the guitars. You know, he does this whole thing with he has a load of pipers come and they all come marching on. Right. It's brilliant. Right.
So have you been using this time, as many of people have, to kind of go through your souvenirs and your stuff and think, how did I end up with one of these? Or I remember that, or that's where that was. Have you discovered anything interesting?
Well, I have been going through a few things, and when you invited me, I thought, right. And I mean, the stuff that I've got. One thing I have to show you.
Go on.
Is I talk about this when I do my gigs, because I do a lot of. I talk a lot. Really, me. I do talk a lot on stage and tell stories, you know. And one of the stories I tell is what it was like growing up in Neasden and all the characters and people like that. And I tell the story, well, I'm just going to read you. This was an invitation sent out on the 28th of December, 1957. So I was 3. And it's from my dad's sister. My parents were Scottish. And he came down looking for work when he was 17, but ended up working for London Transport, and he worked at Neasden Power Station, which was demolished in the 60s. But that's where he worked. As a kid, I used to take him his Sunday dinner on a tray down to it's ridiculous. Anyway, that's another story.
Down to the power station.
We used to argue, me and my brother and sister, like, oh, can I take it? So on a tray, covered with a tea towel, Sunday lunch, I would take it to the power station, to the gates, and the guy would come to the gate and take it for my dad. For his Sunday, you know, because he worked shifts, you know. So
and would presumably arrive with a few roast potatoes missing on the way.
Possibly if I took it, yeah. Actually, no, if my brother took it. I think my brother was dyspraxic. He was always doing stuff like that. Anyway, so my dad's sister lived in the next street. So here's this invitation, which you won't be able to read it. Well, you might be able to. But would you like to read it?
Read it out.
Mr. and Mrs. F. Snook request the pleasure of your company at the official opening ceremony of their recently completed coal bunker. In brackets, large economy size. At 47 Verney Street, Northwest 10, on the 28th of December 1957, 7 p.m. for 7:30 p.m. Lord and Lady Ling, late of Waltham Cross, have graciously consented to attend. BLLC, bring large lump coal.
That's amazing. That's almost like a pastiche in Private Eye, because you remember Private Eye at the time was so kind of constantly taking a rise out of Neasden. Neasden was a kind of running gag, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I thought that really, it's very kind of post-war, everyone. Do you know what I mean? Everyone there were 3 streets, and everyone in all the streets knew each other. You know, it was very. I know it sounds a bit corny, but it's true. You know, that's what it was like. And Lord and Lady Ling, that was Uncle Harold and Auntie Sis, not real uncles and aunties, but that's what you said back then.
Yeah.
And they lived across the road, and they were from the East End. And Uncle Harold looked like Tommy Trinder. He was really, really tall, and his trousers came up to here. You know, and Auntie Sis had the winged glasses, matching hat, gloves, handbag, shoes, the whole shebang, you know. And they had they used to have parties on New Year's Eve, and my mum and dad would have the party on Christmas Eve, or vice versa. And they had 2 sons, Harold and Titch. I mean, these names, couldn't make it up, could you? And I had a bit of a crush on Alf when I was 2. Anyway, before I was born, they had a party, and my mum and dad went to the party, took my brother and sister, who fell asleep on one of the beds. And Auntie Sis said to my mum and dad, oh, just you go home, pick them up tomorrow, they're asleep, it's fine. And my mum always used to say to me, and your dad got a wee bit fruity that night, and you turned up the following September. So I'm the result of a really good party in Aylesbury Street, New Year's 1953.
It was your conception, that's right.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. That's a fantastic story. Yeah.
What else you got there?
Well, let's do this one next. I mean, this is tiny, and there's another one, but I can't find it. I knew, but still do, Mott the Hoople when I was like 15, 16. Me and my friend Linda Smurden used to hitchhike down the North Circular and go to the Cook's Ferry Inn in Edmonton.
Oh,
see
cool.
bands. Do you remember that band called Stray?
Oh, yes.
Oh, we used to follow them around. We used to love them.
Oh, really? Stray. They made a record called Saturday Morning Pictures, didn't they?
Right.
Stray used to have very, very long hair.
Very long hair.
Before anybody else.
Great LP sleeves.
But they're a three piece. I think.
Yeah, three. I think. Yeah.
Anyway, go on, carry on.
So we would go to see bands, and there was always people like, Bloodwind Pig and Sam Apple Pie.
Mick Abrahams and Jethro Tull Splinter Group. Oh yeah, no shame there. The head rings out.
Anyway, we went to the Cook's Ferry Inn, and I think what happened was we were standing by the bar. And Pete Watts, or he's sort of known as Overend Watts. He sadly died now, but he knocked a drink over my friend, and he said, "Oh, I'll put you on the guest list. Cause sorry about that. Come in and everything." And we chatted to him after. Anyway, we got to know them really well, and I introduced Mick Ralphs to his first wife, my friend Nina, and they lived in a big house in North Kensington, and I remember going around there and cooking bacon sandwiches and things like that. I was only 16. There was no funny business. It was just, they were really nice guys. They weren't into drugs or anything. They liked to drink, but they're just really down to earth, West Country kind of guys. Anyway, so this is a really old picture of them at a rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
And
Who's that in the hat?
I've got a couple of others. I think that might be Fally, who was Virgin Allen, the keyboard player.
Yes.
But I've got another one with Ian very clear in it, but I couldn't find it, and maybe it's dropped down the back somewhere. But so those are really nice stories. Unfortunately, Mick Ralphs has had a stroke and he's not well. But what was weird was, so I saw them, and when I was 18, I moved to New York to be a nanny, and I was there for 2.5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Nina, who was married to Mick at the time, they all came over because things had really started to happen. Because when I knew them, they were still playing like pubs and things. And it gradually, I remember I was there some of the time when they made an album called Mad Shadows at Basing Street Studios. And then the whole David Bowie thing. In fact, I remember being at Mick and Nina's house in Shepherd's Bush, and Mick Ronson came round, and he was so sweet, and he said to me, "Do you know what the time is?" And I said, "No, but if you just ring Tim." Do you remember those days where you could ring Tim on the phone? He phoned, and then he went, "Oh, thank you very much." Oh, bless him! It's a recording.
You're talking to a machine.
Yeah. But he was lovely. So yes, so they came to New York, and I remember I went and stayed with Nina in the hotel, and went to the New York gig and everything. So yeah, it was really exciting. And then years and years later, I was on Pop Quiz, and Mick was on Pop Quiz, and we were saying, "Who thought then?" And he said, "I didn't know you were, wanted to be a singer."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I kept a bit quiet about it."
Oh, it's fantastic. It's funny. I was reading Ian Hunter's book. Again recently, Diary of a Rock and Roll Star.
Oh, what a great book!
Brilliant book.
And of course, the wonderful detail in that is he goes off it's about going on a tour of the United States. They weren't huge, but they'd had hits in the UK. And I think he was living in Wembley, wasn't he, or something like that? Ian Hunter, I think he was. Anyway, here's the point: when he goes off, he leaves his car with a mate. And his car, and bear in mind, this is a man who's writing a book called Diary of a Rock and Roll Star. His car is a Ford Anglia. Yeah. So, that gives you an idea of what a very different world it was.
Yeah.
It's so English, isn't it?
The idea that a rock star, or anybody who wanted to be a rock star, would possibly drive a Ford Anglia.
And admit to it.
And also admitting to it. That's the thing. Well, funnily enough, Paul Young had a Ford Anglia when I went out with him. back in 1980. Really? Yeah, he had a Ford Anglia, yeah. And
when did you go out with Paul Young?
It was just a few months before he had the big hit. And we both had the same taste. You know, we were both into Smokey Robinson and all that kind of soul stuff, you know. And I remember he did this demo, or we had a cassette of Wherever I Lay My Hat, and we went round to my brother's house in Kingsbury, and he played it for my brother, you know. And my brother John said, "Blimey, that's brilliant. You know, I think you might have a hit with that. That could be a hit." And I went off to America to do a tour, and Paul had been around my house a lot, and I still lived with my mum and dad back then. And so he got to know my mum and dad quite well. So every time I phoned home, my mum would say, "Oh, Paul's record's in the charts," you know. And then by the time I got back, it was at number 1. Couldn't believe it. So that's when I
have to say, at Smash Hits, we didn't know about this romance, or we wouldn't we, Dave? We would have written about this.
We would have
been in our gossip column. You would have been snogging each other, as we would say.
Well, that gives me a very nice link, actually.
Go on.
Because one of the romances they did talk about was me and Mark Arband. I mean, really?
Yeah.
You know, we were good friends, but I found this. I found a load of telegrams.
Oh, telegrams! Wow.
Is this the right one? I don't know. Might be this one. Telegram.
All right. Can I read that?
Yeah, who's it from? Read it out.
Dear Murray, just arrived back from New York. Go on, carry on.
Dear Mary, just arrived back from New York to find it's your birthday. Have a wonderful time and congratulations for Top of the Pops. Hooray, couldn't be more perfect. We'll be ringing you. Ringing you, that's so old-fashioned. Yeah. Tons of love, Mark. So that's Mark Arman. I've got loads. I've got some from, I've got one here from Decca. Sorry you have to work on your birthday, but it is Top of the Pops after all. Have a happy birthday. Love from all at Decca. Mary Wilson, 30 Aylesbury Street, Neasden, London, Northwest.
Oh, telegrams! What is?
This is when you were on the cover of Smash Hits, because I've just dug it up. Isn't that the one?
There she is.
You were on the cover with that hit, and I interview you, and there you are, the Neasden Queen of Soul, the nymphette of the nail varnish, Miss Beehive, 1982.
The High Priestess of Hairspray.
High Priestess of Hairspray.
My hair has got so long. But it's a slippery slope, I reckon, guys. I mean, it could end up going that way very, very soon, couldn't it? It's getting long enough again.
Well, can you remember I don't know if you remember the piece, but I took you to Topshop where you had the full beehive treatment.
Yeah.
And there's lots of captions about vertical hold and all that kind of stuff. There's a great quote where you say, Diana Ross preaches love, I preach Tupperware, which may have been completely lost on our kind of 12-year-old readers who probably had no idea the kitsch concept of Tupperware. Yeah. But we thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. I know. That was, those were good days. But the thing is, when you're older, when you were young and you've got a nice 50s hairdo and everything, and you've got a nice plump young face, and even though you're wearing retro stuff, it's sort of ironic, isn't it? And it kind of works. When you get older and you wear that stuff, you just look even older, which isn't really what you want, you know. Or, I mean, I thought, I did put my hair up the other day, and I ended up looking like the woman from the Pioneer shop in Holloway Road back in the 80s. Because she had a beehive. It's not really the look I want to go for, but anyway, we'll see.
So, are you a keeper of stuff? Do you hoard stuff?
I am. Yes, I think. Yeah, I am really. I mean, there's a room next door that's got all my stage gear in it, and there's things like there's dresses that have now become tunics. Because you get to a certain age, they're so short that you have to wear them with trousers. So, all my mini dresses are now tunics. So I have got quite a lot of stuff. I did donate a load of stuff to children in need years ago, dresses. And Beverly Craven's just asked me to, and a load of other people, to donate some clothes for this intensive care unit place. So that's a good way to get rid of them, really.
No, sure. So are you missing not performing at the moment?
Yeah, I am really, because it's what, you know, it's what I do, you know. It's I like being on stage with an audience and you know, the intimacy of the kind of gigs I do, you know, maybe up to about 300. I don't do, you know, places much bigger than that. Sometimes, if it's something.
You did the O2, didn't you, with Mark Armour not long ago? That's right. Well, I mean, you appeared with him.
15,000 people.
So what's that like when you're playing to 300 people normally and you're suddenly playing to 15,000? There must be an extraordinary feeling.
It is. It's. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it back in the 80s when we supported Brian Ferry on his tour. We did Wembley and we did the NEC, and it was good fun and everything. But the audience, excuse me, are so far away. They're so far away. Yeah. You kind of think it's a different performance. You have to be really big and strut the stage and everything, which I do when I do gigs with the Wilsations, because I've got the new Wilsations now, great brass section, and I've got a couple of young girl backing singers and everything. So when I can afford to do the gig where there's 9 of us, it is that kind of a gig. But I don't know. I like to sort of sit on a stool and have a chat. It's just different, and especially in those kind of places, people are going out to get popcorn and.
Yes.
You know, or they're filming it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so they're not really with you in the same way, you know. Yeah, but it was great. It was great.
So you do gigs with the Wilsations. Do you do gigs with Bob Younger and
Claire Martin?
Right. Okay.
Years ago, haven't done that for years.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because we were all, every time anyone offered us a gig, it was like, well, I can't do it because I'm in Manchester or something. It was hard to get together.
Yeah.
So it was something that we did for a while, which was, you know, it was good fun. But yeah, gosh, that seems like an awfully long time ago now. Right. So I've got something else here that I thought.
Go on.
So I'm trying to think. This must have been 1981. In fact, it is, because I can tell by my hairdo. And we decided to put on, is it Screen on the Green? The one in Screen on the Hill in Haverstock.
Oh, right. Screen on the Hill, yeah.
And we put on Eraserhead and me.
Oh, God, because Henry in Eraserhead has that incredible hair, doesn't he?
Yes, so that's
doesn't he have the kind of great vertical lift? Oh, that's a terrifying film.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord! I remember going to see.
How funny that we performed, and that night my mum crowned me Miss Beehive 1982 or whatever it was, 81. She put this tiara on me, which I still have. So that's quite interesting. What else? I've got loads of stuff actually. I tell you, let me get my.
Go on, get some more. I can't get over that. Eraserhead and Mary Wilson on the same bill.
Isn't that funny?
That's so 81.
And we had we got people to be ushers with like supermarket baskets, and they were handing out badges of me, and I think hankies or combs or something ridiculous, you know. So I found my autograph book.
Oh,
great! Yeah.
I mean, there's loads of silly things in here, but from friends and everything. So I've got John Peel. I don't know how old I was. Tommy Vance.
That indicates you must have hung around outside Portland Place on a drizzly Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. But I've also got, where's the, you're going to be impressed by this one. I've also got Muriel Young, because I went to 5 o'clock club, and you will see my autograph from.
Oh, who's that? Daisy.
Daisy the cow. 5 o'clock club.
Oh my Lord, that's amazing.
Isn't that great? And I believe Engelbert Humperdinck was on, and Lulu, when I went to that. I seem to have. I've got
Engelbert Humperdinck, Lulu, and the cow. This is a classic. That's a haul, isn't it?
Oh, the honeycombs. I've got 2 autographs.
Brilliant.
Honey of the honeycombs.
Oh,
you can see that.
I can even tell you Honey's second name.
Oh,
Honey Lantry.
Wow.
She was, in the 1960s, she was literally the first female drummer, wasn't she?
Yes, she must have been.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not that anybody knew about. They didn't know about another one. She was that was the gimmick. We've got a woman and she plays an instrument. My goodness, how extraordinary! Ivy Lantry. She was a hairdresser.
Was she?
Yeah,
I like her even more now.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All kinds of links there. Oh, that's brilliant.
That is.
You're a big. Go on.
I've got I just love this picture. This was at the very beginning, before we'd had a hit or anything like that. And you'll see there's Michelle Collins in the middle.
Oh, right. Of course. She was one of your Wilsations.
Yes.
Right.
Was Julia Fordham a Wilsation too?
She was. Yes.
She was, wasn't she? That's
right.
Right.
My friend Mike says, I've yet to meet someone who either wasn't or didn't shag a Wilsation. There's so many of them. There were so many. I don't know if I can say that, but I've said
Yeah, that's fine. You have done now. Don't worry.
You're among friends.
Yes.
It's fine.
So yeah, there were rather a lot. I still see Jules. I mean, she lives in LA, but because of what Mal, my husband, does, we spend a lot of time over there.
Right.
So I see her over there. Loads of people, and they all ended up, a lot of them. The drummer ended up doing international press for record companies. So did one of the singers. Everyone kind of went on to do good stuff. No one kind of ended up, being sad or,
right.
Everyone seemed to kind of go on and do really great things,
Yeah.
That's really nice. So, what else have I got here? I've got my VIP artist thing from the Tube.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right. What year would that have been? About 83, same sort of time? 84?
Yeah.
When did the Tube start? That's right.
Yeah, in fact, I thought I had some pictures. I've got so much stuff. I'm surrounded.
Who were you on the Tube with? Can you remember who else was there?
Here it is.
Yeah.
The Tube.
Oh, right.
And does it say what year? I don't know if it actually says, but here am I.
The Hive Five.
The Hive Five.
There we are.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
It was great, the Tube, I must say. It was great. Everyone, playing live.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what that
There's a flexi disc.
A flexi. We're very keen on flexis.
Yeah, we're finding regularly find flexis on.
Yeah.
I've got one here. Merry Christmas. I think it was. This wouldn't have been. What's this from? Oh, it's Smash Hits.
Oh right.
Which? That's the Christmas one that Dave and I made that.
Oh, good grief!
That's fantastic.
You did that one.
Is that Happy Christmas from the Stars, sponsored by Black Levi's?
You're on that, surely.
You must be on that, Mara.
Yeah,
I am.
You must be.
You are.
I
can remember now. I went round and I recorded about, must be 20-25 pop stars of the day, singing with Christmas messages and singing songs and stuff.
Yes.
And it was actually pretty good, wasn't it?
It was. In fact, I talked about my Auntie Sis then and about the fact she never put enough butter on the cream crackers.
That's absolutely right.
So I think I talk about that on there.
That's incredibly still got that.
Yeah.
Wow. Because on there, you've got Paul Weller's on there, isn't he, Mark?
Paul Weller on there in a very bad mood.
In a really bad mood.
Yeah,
Not a very Christmassy mood at all.
Yeah. He says something like, this is Paul Weller, everyone. I don't want that to spoil the mood or something like that. Do you remember?
But I have.
Duran Duran sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Musical Youth are on there. It's very good.
Fun Boy 3. ABBA.
Yes, I recorded that at the Dorchester. Very exciting.
Wow, Musical Youth, yes.
That's
at 100.
That's a precious artifact. That is.
It is, isn't it?
You can actually find it on YouTube. We'll put a link to it underneath this.
We will.
Right.
Underneath this clip, for anybody who hasn't heard it, they can hear the whole thing.
Yes.
On YouTube, because everything hangs around forever nowadays on YouTube.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, I know. So there's this as well, which was my first single.
Right. Oh, that's a lovely thing.
Isn't it great?
Beautiful
That's my
sleeves. The sleeves are so good, aren't they?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brilliant pastiche.
Who designed those covers, Mari?
Julian Baum. He did my latest album, actually.
Right.
He's great. I mean, my latest, I should have brought one of the vinyls up here, but I think they're all downstairs. It's very, well, there's one here. Hold on.
Go on, plug it. You may as well plug it.
So this is the Japanese version. But you can, I mean, it's only, the vinyl is better, but it looks like a James Bond.
Yeah. It's like a small bass thing.
I mean, he did, you know, the Madness picture where they're all in a line with their legs, you know, behind each other. That famous picture of Madness.
The first album cover?
That one. He did that.
Yeah. Look at that. Can you say? I love the way Dave's got everything to hand. There's a flexi disc here. There's a Madness album here.
Is there any television program in the world that could sum that up as quickly as that?
I am impressed.
We didn't plan that, did we, Mari? I've never met you before this evening, madam, have I?
That's amazing. That's amazing. And who else did he do? The Texas, that great logo, that album, the Texas album, The Clash. I mean, he's brilliant, you know.
Good.
So yes.
I have to say, I'm loving your Beatles poster in the background. Is it an old Mersey Beat picture or something? It's beautiful, isn't it?
I think it was given to Mal because he's a Scouser, you know, my husband. You have to keep an eye on your hubcaps around here. Yeah. It was, yes, it was Mal's. Oh, I've just seen something else to show you. Which is this dress.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
This, the huge skirt, it's all fully lined, and it's an original 1950s Liberty print, and it was made for me for a TV show called, I think it was Saturday Review or something like that, where they did this whole thing about this new furniture from Italy, and it was called Memphis. That was just the name of the particular design of this furniture. It was very 50s looking. And I wore that and I sang, "Wouldn't It Be Lovely?" Probably 1983, 84, something like that.
What, the My Fair Lady, Wouldn't It Be Lovely?
Yeah.
Right, very good. Very good.
So I've kept that dress because it's quite special. I'm just surrounded by stuff. I don't know. I've got my my darts trophies.
Go on.
Darts trophy.
Darts trophy.
Yes. In the 90s, I got together with some friends, and we were the Highgate. We were called the Blue Angels from the Angel Pub in Highgate. There was about 10 of us. And it was very funny because everyone was like, I don't know, an artist or a journalist, or it was so didn't make any sense that we were playing darts really. But and we won a few competitions. So that's my darts. So I dug those out. I also have 1966 gold bar Mary Wilson in ballroom dancing.
Oh, what?
That's very impressive.
So where did you win that? Go on.
I was 11 or 12, and here are my other ones, because I've got a special Latin American one as well. It's hilarious, isn't it? M. Wilson. In fact, I got a special Latin American one because I remember the man said, now, Mary's Lambeth Walk leaves a lot to be desired, but her Latin American dancing is wonderful. Your Lambeth Walk, who cares? So it was at the Ritz in Neasden, which is a ridiculous thing to say. That was the name of the cinema in Neasden for Saturday morning pictures, and upstairs was a ballroom. It was a beautiful Art Deco. I think it's called Shopper's Paradise now.
Oh dear!
This could not be more quintessentially Old English, could it? The Ritz in Neasden, the Lambeth Walk. We've been talking about pie and mash shops. I think our American viewers may be a little baffled by this particular episode.
Well, I know. Mel's always saying to me that he thinks I'm totally stuck in 1957 with my language.
Good place to be. What's wrong with that?
Well, I know. It's just that
Ford Anglia out.
You must have thought about writing a book.
Well, I'm sort of working on something at the moment.
Go on, tell us what you're doing.
Well, it's a kind of, I don't really know what it is yet.
All right.
It's a kind, might be a podcast, might be a radio thing.
Right.
I don't know. But
was it based
it's
on
about your life,
on the past?
Based a lot on what we've been talking about.
Right.
Music, and it started as an idea because I thought, right, because Pop Deluxe is all covers, and I'm really pleased with that. I think we've done a really good job on all these old songs and made them sound contemporary and made them sound my own, I think. But it's time to do something original again. So I started thinking about London and how I wanted to write more about London and growing up in London and all the clubs I went to. I mean, I went to the Marquee when I was like 14, 15. I used to see Juno Washington, all kinds of stuff like that. And so at the moment, I'm calling it, where's that record? I'm calling it The Sound of Young Wembley.
Are you?
Motown Records had
Sound of Young America.
If you look at my old singles on the label, it says The Sound of Young Wembley.
It is. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so I have actually recorded some little episodes and everything, which I did here. So I'm going to be shopping it around.
Okay.
It's funny, isn't it? Because normally I think, well, I won't talk about it, I think, So we'll see, because I would like to write a book, but I quite like, talking about it as well, in my own way, in my own voice, as it were.
Well, look, Mari, it's been a delight catching up with you.
Thank you.
What are you doing for the rest of the day?
Oh, let me see. I might just stay in. Yeah. I mean, who knows, really? There's only so much more we can take, really. But I think we're kind of enjoying it, really. We watched loads of films and and now it's nice, we can eat outside in the garden if we want to. So it's you just got to make the most of it, haven't you? What can you do?
You definitely do. It's been lovely talking to you.
It's been an absolute joy to see you again. Fantastic to see you.
Thank you.
All the very best.
Very best.
And we'll see you on the other side, as we say.
Yes, I hope so. Yes, stay safe.